Good morning, everybody. Here's another episode of A Cup of Coffee in the Neighborhood with Jennifer Richardson.
Morning.
So today we just kind of want to talk to you about a couple things that kind of transpired throughout the week as far as real estate goes in the local area and throughout the nation, actually. So the big change that we had this week is the FHA mortgage insurance actually was decreased. So it actually went down. So pretty much what that means for most people is affordability is going to go up because essentially they're having to pay less per month via mortgage insurance. And essentially why they have mortgage insurance on an FHA loan is it allows the HUD essentially to continue to make those type of loans. Because obviously we hope everybody pays their mortgage, but there's ultimately life that happens and sometimes you don't get to pay your mortgage. And essentially what that mortgage insurance does on the FHA loan is allows them to continue with that program. So that program doesn't operate at such a loss.
Okay.
But essentially what the government did is they actually lowered that going forward. So it was somewhat high. It's kind of based off of the individual, but they actually lowered it. So affordability is going to go up quite a bit.
That's fantastic. So if someone's using an FHA loan, then their pre-approval amount in essence would tick up a little bit.
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah,
so I mean,
great.
at the end of the day, how it all kind of works out on the mortgage side of the house, right? Everything is about, credit score. What do you do for a living? And how long have you been doing it? And how long into the future do we think you're going to continue to do it? And then how much money do you have in the bank in order to complete a transaction? FHA loans are really good because the government kind of looks at everybody a lot more equally than perhaps a conventional loan. So, I always put people in FHA loans that, don't have a lot of money for down payment. Credit might not be perfect. And it allows them to have a house, which fundamentally I think is, written in the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness.
Sure.
But I'm not going to go on a diatribe.
Another day.
Yeah, I'm not going to go on a diatribe about that today.
Yeah.
But, the FHA has the FHA appraisal, obviously, and then the FHA appraisal is a little bit more in depth than your just regular conventional appraisal. And what I usually tell all my people is the house has to be safe.
Yep.
If there's anything safety related, like it has to be fixed.
Yeah.
Because the appraiser is going to go in there, he's going to catch it, and then once he catches it, it just has to be fixed. Because obviously it's a government-backed loan, and the government wants to make sure that that loan's going into a house that's safe.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because sometimes the buyer, when they're looking at the property, they go in and say, "Yep, this will do," and we're seeing stuff like, that's going to come up down the road. That window is not operational. That's a safety hazard, things like that, and that's the stuff they're looking at,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's an outlet that's busted, right now, that's an electrical issue, right? You know what I mean? But you got to get it fixed. It's not a huge deal, and I mean, you coming from like the listing side of the house, I assume when y'all get that appraisal back, and it's like, hey, these repairs have to get fixed. Yeah. To me, I think it would be a no-brainer. It's like, cool, like I have to put some outlets on there. Let's do this quickly or whatever else. And then how it just kind of works on our end is obviously if the appraisal hits anything for it, as far as like safety related stuff, we just have to order a final inspection. The appraiser goes back out there and reinsures that everything's safe. And then we can close.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing, and when I'm meeting with a seller, we're talking about these various loan products that we can anticipate receiving when we receive offers. And, I want to come at things from all angles and say, okay, what may we anticipate down the road? Here's what I see, and this is something that you may want to make a plan for, or it's at least a conversation that we have with the buyer to rectify or remedy any of those issues that could definitely come up, once we're under contract. So yeah, absolutely.
And then when you, obviously, put on your listing agent hat, when you're getting offers in, how do you look at those offers via how they are financed?
Yeah, so how do I look at the offers based on what financing terms are coming through? At the end of the day, it depends on the seller's goals, of course, but I like to coach my sellers that, hey, every loan product is a great loan product, first of all. Every offer has the potential to meet our needs. So we like to look at things really apples to apples, look at what their main goal is, look at the condition of the property, of course. Sometimes there are properties that are listed that they're just not gonna fly and there's no amount of work that you could do. If they're really a distressed property, a government-backed loan is probably not gonna be the best loan product for that, of course. But when meeting with that seller, I coach them, hey, these are actually really solid loan products, FHA, VA, USDA, very solid loan products in that, we have a lot of control over the situation. A lot of that's in your lane, of course.
Yeah, to an extent.
But they're not bad loan products. And I mean, there's really some reliability factors within that. So when I sit down with a seller and we receive a VA loan, I say, oh my gosh, this person's qualified.
Right.
You know, like
that's such a good loan product.
It's actually, I see more conventional fall through because someone's lied on an application or something, not with you, you know, because you do a good job of vetting everyone and making sure that their stuff's together. But, you know, I've seen loans fall apart, you know, not VA loans.
Yeah,
so,
typically not. And
yeah.
God, I love working with my fellow veterans. Man.
Yeah.
It's so
awesome,
just
right?
nice and easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, bro, I need you to submit these things tonight.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, roger that.
Yes, sir.
It's done.
Done.
You know what I mean? It's like, yes. You know, it makes for
Absolutely.
such a good just overall experience for all parties concerned.
For sure.
You know, my pitch of it is, you know, I know in North Carolina it specifically states via the offer to purchase what type of financing there is. Yeah. And VA is on there, FHA is on there, conventional and cash. Yep. And, you know, it's my kind of pitch that, you know, it should kind of be cash conventional government. Because what I have seen for some reason, you know, there's people that have straight up denied just because of VA financing. And I think a lot of it is just fear of the appraisal for some reason. Yeah. And at the end of the day, like if your house is in order, like to be sold, just like I wouldn't sell a car that's dirty. You know what I mean? And frankly, like a lot of times it's like, cool, man, like it's such simple stuff. If the VA appraisal like hits on it, like don't have trash leaning up against your house. You know, if your windows are cracking, like they're going to want new paint and caulk on there. Like it's all safety related because the main thing about the VA loan is that house has to be turnkey, right? Because obviously government backed loan. So I think hopefully going forward, you know, we can kind of try to be a mechanism for change to an extent and just take away like the difference between FHA and VA and just be like, cool, is it a government loan? Is it conventional or is it cash? Because unfortunately, like there's just some stipulation that, you know, somehow a VA loan is not as good as everything else. Whereas like, honestly, coming from this side, it's the best damn loan product other than cash. You know what I mean?
For
like,
sure.
who has, you know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
there's
It's
very
not every
few of
single
us.
buyer out there in the market. I think one other misconception that I used to hear, I haven't heard this recently, so I'm hoping this is washing away, but one of the misconceptions that I used to hear from sellers was that they were afraid that VA appraisers would underappraise the property, that they don't appraise as high as a conventional loan appraiser. That is not true. And furthermore, you know, what I like to tell both buyers and sellers is if you are using a VA loan or if you're, you know, considering negotiating with someone using a VA loan, let's not assume that they don't have money to make up a gap. There's nothing that says they're not allowed to make up a gap. You know, it protects the VA addendum, protects the earnest money, of course, you know, should the property not appraise and seller and buyer don't come to terms. But it doesn't say that you can't move forward with a sale. Right. And so I think that that's important for a lot of sellers to know.
I mean, it's, you know, there's a thing called Tidewater, which, you know, you're familiar with. And essentially,
my own property, Mark.
yeah, you know,
Thanks,
I mean, you know, 72 hours from the appraisal due date, the appraiser can call it Tidewater. And essentially what happens is that's when the appraiser thinks that it might not justify the purchase price. They call it a mechanism or process called Tidewater. And then we obviously submit either the listing agent or the buyer side agent submits comparables justifying the purchase price. VA looks at, or the appraiser looks at those comparables and then he makes a decision. I have actually had a reassessment of value done via the VA, and we were able to raise that by $25,000 before. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I think that it's just this huge misconception because ultimately the VA wants veterans in homes because it's a benefit.
Exactly. It's
a benefit that you get because you served your country. So
and I love a Tidewater, honestly. I mean, I don't know if I'm just like challenge accepted, let's do it, you know, but like I love it. And part of, you know, my job is I'm not an appraiser, but when we're looking at properties and we're considering, you know, an offer strategy, I'd say, hey, this is what we can anticipate. This is the information that your appraiser is going to see. This is what we can anticipate a range of what they'll likely value this property at. So my clients are already geared up and ready to go in the event that that does come up down the road. And then I'm already geared up and ready to go because I've got those comps handy to say, hey, actually we do see that value and here's why. You know, and I mean, I think that makes a difference too in getting things to the finish line. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we, you know, we obviously went over mortgage insurance is going down for FHA loan. We talked about some of the stipulations for an FHA appraisal and a VA. And then just kind of a big event that we got coming up in the neighborhood, literally in the neighborhood, is
April 1st at 10, we're going to put on essentially a neighborhood-wide Easter egg hunt. And, we're going to have a big old bounce house. I think that thing is like 60 feet long.
The kids are going to love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Caroline's already excited. I'm sure your kids are excited too.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the Easter bunny.
So you're dressing up like the Easter bunny.
I am.
Okay.
We have an outfit from A Christmas Story. The Christmas Story outfit of the Easter bunny.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be me. And we're gonna get the neighborhood together. Like I said, we got the bounce house. We're probably gonna end up at the end of Pandian at 10 o'clock, and then we're just gonna unleash the children on the neighborhood.
Let them go.
Yes.
It's gonna be awesome.
So it's gonna be great. So if you're in the neighborhood and you want to participate, please just reach out to us, and we'll just kind of give you more of the details as far as the planning goes. And it's just gonna be a really great time for the kids.
It's gonna be fun. Awesome.
All right. Hey, till next week.
Great week.
Yeah. Y'all have a good week.